This is like one of the most intriguing podcasts I think I've done because I'm terrified of dying.
It has been the greatest lesson of the realization when I notice those attachments to kind of be like, hey, remember, this is a skin suit, right? Like this is all impermanent. Life is short. And we're not guaranteed tomorrow. So what are you doing?
What has sitting beside people at the end of their life taught you about how to live?
Everything.
Welcome back to the Unveiled Podcast. I'm your host, Meagan Murphy, and today I'm here with Jessica Harris. Hey, girl.
Hey.
How are you?
Great.
It's so good to hear from you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we were introduced by our friend Pat Blair, who's been on the show. She is a life doula. Mm-hmm. And now I have you on here, and you are going to be a death doula.
Yes.
So this is like one of the most intriguing podcasts I think I've done out of all the ones I've done because I'm terrified of dying. Mm-hmm. I'm a hypochondriac. I am scared to death of loss. I literally play in my head, how it's going to be when I lose my mom. Mm-hmm. I try to feel that to prepare myself. So I just got chills. So yeah, I want to know how you got into this hospice work, and you told me you were also fearing death, correct?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But primarily from my parents dying as well, right? Like what would that ever look like? And so being faced with your dad's imminent death and knowing that he might pass alone really made me scale back and be like, how afraid of this am I?
Oh, wow.
Right? Like it was like grabbing the bull by the horns. And
so you lost your dad? Or?
So I lost my dad back in 2023.
Okay.
And he was in a hospital. He lived by himself in Virginia Beach. And when I got the call from the hospital saying that we really needed to discuss hospice options, I didn't know much about hospice at that time, what it did, what it meant. And I made a few phone calls. One was to his old caseworker. When he was really sick a few years ago, I took care of him and became really close friends with his caseworker, who helped guide me. My father was an alcoholic. He did not take really great care of himself, and so was not a sickly guy, but lived life to the fullest and used his skin suit well, okay? Yeah. So, and he wasn't afraid of death either. He talked a lot about death, which I hated, and it made everyone uncomfortable. We would always try to silence him and kind of discount what he was saying, but he knew that he was going to die young, and he actually predicted his death in a letter that he wrote to my sister. I think he would get kind of like prophetic downloads, but he was such a heavy drinker. I think we all kind of wrote it off as, oh, dad's drinking again, or
right.
he's wasted, and here we go with the messages that he's getting. But he had a dream where a woman came to him and told him that he would die young at 67, which he did, and wrote this letter to my sister. So it is kind of profound when you look back, and when I now give credit to some of the things he said, I really can replay and unfold a lot more of how he really knew what he was doing and knew that.
So he knew how he was exactly going to die, or he knew that the age?
I think it was way before he got sick. I mean, he got sick, and within 2 months he died. He was only on hospice for a few days. Oh. So, but when I was faced with having to put him on hospice, I knew that's there's not many days left when that happens. Hospice is up to 6 months. For people who don't know, it's those who are facing death within 6 months usually. And you have to be DNR, so do not resuscitate. So you don't call 911 if they stop breathing or they get sicker. It's a more organic process of the death and dying process, in my opinion. And
so they go in there, and they know they have 6 months to live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they call the family and they're like, we need to discuss hospice options. And I'm like, oh boy, so what does that look like? And when I called the caseworker, I said, what do I do? And she's like, are you going to do this alone? I said, I have no other choice. I guess so. And she said, you need to look into a death doula. I'm like, now I had a birth doula.
So did I.
Like, what does that look like? You know, because my birth doula was one of my favorite people.
See, mine was bad.
Oh, mine was amazing.
She just came there and hung out, like, and it charged me a lot of money, and I was like dying.
Mine was amazing, and it's really part of my whole story now that I think about it. So I'm glad we're talking about this.
Yeah,
because the birth doula part, I did that through hypnobabies. So, and my doula was my hypnobaby instructor. So it's childbirth through self-hypnosis. So you don't have any medication, and you basically train yourself to travel.
That's
right?
a podcast right there.
It really is. You travel, you become like an athlete, a mental athlete, to prepare the mind to allow the body to do its own thing.
Wow.
So it's a really rich course of understanding what the body goes through during the process of labor and delivery. You bring your birth partner into it. So my husband was really like involved. He knew what like signs to look for, and to have the doula there, it was like she was able to kind of talk through it with him as well, but assist me physically, spiritually, emotionally, however I needed to, and kind of be the advocate at the hospital because, you know, I gave birth with no lights on, right? Like we had diffusers going. We requested that the staff not use word like pain. You know, like what's your pain level? It was all pressure, right? So they were pressure waves, not contractions, right? So it was really months of training the brain and getting ready to process this experience, basically, and not look at it as some kind of medical fear or emergency, but just a transformation of the body in a temporary place of, let's say, discomfort, maybe.
Yeah. If I ever have another one, I'm calling to get that number from you, the Hypno Baby Girl.
Right?
Because
Because listen,
this is exactly what I need. Because I was like 2 weeks almost dying from preeclampsia, so I was scared to death. You know?
And yeah, and knowing that the body can tense and make the labor more difficult.
Yeah.
If you're not prepared and you're not in like a good mental space,
it was terrifying. Awful.
It can really make that a pretty traumatic experience.
Oh yeah.
So just trusting the body, but a lot of that's knowing what's happening and having somebody empower you with that it was everything. So when she said look for a death doula, I went online and I started looking it up, and I'm like, now this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So the lady that I found that said she lived in Virginia Beach did not. She had moved to Arizona, but we connected on the phone. I told her my situation. She said, look, you have my number. Call me if you need anything. I can't be there with you, but I will answer the phone at any time to like answer any questions. So I had a lot of questions like, what if he asks, am I dying? What do I say? Am I allowed to say yes? Like, what does that look like? And she coached me through it. And
so you don't think of these things.
No.
You don't think of like when someone's gonna die in your life, and like I didn't think of that ever.
I'm like,
ask that question.
Yeah, like, does he even know? Because he was not really of right mind.
Yeah.
So, like, do you tell, would that scare him?
Right.
I don't know. You don't know what to do. So, between having the support and the confidence of this death doula across the country, and then the experience that I had as a woman giving birth, after the whole experience happened, it felt like the same thing.
Oh, wow.
It was probably the most profound experience of my life to watch somebody and to hold the hand of somebody transition into that realm. The laboring, the phases of it all, it was eerily similar to bringing life into the world. And through different sacred circles that I've sat in, and just intentional, women's circles or whatnot, I felt like I could hold vigil for him. So I brought incense, I brought my little steel drum, I, had a playlist going for him. I really felt like, okay, I think I have an idea of how to hold space for him during that time. And it was his hospice nurse that, as we were leaving the hospital, she pulled me aside and was like, I don't know what you do for a living, but you're handling this like really well. I just want to encourage you to look into hospice volunteering when you get on the other side of this, because like you're exactly the kind of person that we look for that would be a really natural fit for this. And I think you'd really receive it well. So after a few months after my father passed, that's exactly what I did. I looked into some local hospice organizations and that was 3 years ago.
So you were like in training with your own dad and you didn't even know it.
Nope. I didn't even know.
That is so crazy.
I didn't even know it because it was the scariest thing to me. I felt like if there was any way to show up for somebody, it was this way. And I knew that he did not want to die in a hospital.
Yeah.
I mean, he was pretty feral, so he probably would have preferred to just been thrown out in the ocean. And he made comments like that all the time, like, please don't let me suffer. Please don't, like take me on a deep sea fishing trip and just say goodbye and dump me out and let the fish eat me. So him knowing that he said things like that my whole life, I think it really did help me feel a little bit more comfortable accompanying him because I knew that he wasn't attached to his skin suit and to his own, like his mortality was very real and he was very comfortable with that. And it's something that I hold really important now as I speak to my children. I want them to feel very comfortable with my mortality and even with their own and with other people. And my dad also passed 3 months after my husband's father passed. And then 3 months after my father passed, my husband's stepdad passed. So we lost all the grandpas in like 6 months. And it was like all of them were in their 60s too. None of them were like terminally ill. It was all pretty sporadic. And then seeing how to hold space for all the family that lost everybody, right? Like my mother-in-law who lost her partner and my children and all the grandkids that were left. Like, how do you honor these lives? So it was more of like also how to create tribute for the lives that we lost, and not to make it sad, to celebrate it, and also recognize our own impermanence and mortality as well through it all. Yeah.
Gosh. Now, how did you get yourself to do that whenever you feared it so much? I guess because that woman, like, it was like a kind of a confirmation thing.
Yeah, she was like, I'll be on the phone, and for whatever reason,
I meant the woman that stopped you after and told you, you need to be doing this.
Well,
because
so I'm a great breadcrumb collector.
Yeah.
And so like I don't take things like that lightly. I always keep them on my peripheral, and I'm like, that's weird. Right? Yeah. Because as she's saying this, my dad's like, I mean, he's actively dying. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I've been in gymnastics my whole life. We do cartwheels and sparkles, right? Like, this is not, I am not a death and dying person. Like, I've never even considered that kind of work. And I've always been fascinated with it, though, because I didn't have a lot of death in my life. I was shielded from that a lot. My grandparents died when I was an adult. I didn't have any major losses. And I was always I felt very, very fortunate. My sisters and I always talk about that a lot. And I think that the digging in and being present for him was not only like, first of all, I didn't want him to haunt me.
Yeah.
Like, let's keep it real.
I love how you have this much humor in this. Like I guess it's what it takes.
People in the death and dying world are probably some of the best, like most comic relief, like realist that I've ever met, because you kind of have to be, because in order to face that willingly for people that you don't know, you have to kind of see that there's something else beyond, right? Yeah. And you can't have these earthly attachments to people, things, places, plants, animals, etc., right? Like
So you don't have that anymore?
It has been the greatest lesson of the realization when I notice those attachments to kind of be like, hey, remember, this is a skin suit, right? Like this is all impermanent.
Right.
So when I do feel clinging on to something, I notice that it's all fear. And when fear lives in the body, that manifests in some gnarly ways.
Yeah.
And I don't wish to get sick from fear. I don't wish to be limited by fear. So facing death like that, to me, it made natural childbirth, a separation from my husband, illnesses with children, anything. It made it all look like this was the bravest thing I could do. And it felt like a way for me to almost level up and like pony up as an adult. Like, if you're going to shy away from this, what if somebody, what if this happens in your face and you can't turn away, right? Like there will be times where we will all face death.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Right?
Yeah. My mom is like the biggest thing, like, and my dad, like, but my mom, I could not even imagine, right? Like, so I rebuke that in the name of Jesus, but what has sitting beside people at the end of their life taught you about how to live?
Everything.
Oh.
Absolutely everything. And, I have nothing really to gain. I'm not sitting with these people looking forward to having coffee with them in 6 months or, hoping that we stay friends forever. Like, I'm a temporary friend that comes in a pretty wild time in their life.
Yeah.
And what I found more times than not is that people want to talk about their own death.
Really?
And their families do not. And
they want to talk about it.
They do. They want to share what they want their funerals to look like or what they wish for their body to experience or to not experience, medications they wish to not have or have, ways that they think of dying, dreams that they have. Oh, that's my favorite. And the families don't.
Can you share something like a dream that someone had beside your dad? I mean, your dad.
Yeah.
Did,
Oh my gosh. I mean,
so this is typical. This is like a pretty normal thing.
Oh yeah.
When you're dying.
Oh yeah. As they're approaching death, it's a pretty common thing for people to talk about, but they don't want to talk about it with their families. And if they do, the families are like, oh, they write it off as kind of nothing,
like
as
they're
just
losing their mind or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
And I'm a collector of stories, and I'm like, the stories are all pretty similar. A lot of people see water. A lot of people are seeing, when I'm in the room with people who are, the veil is so thin and they have visitors walk in the room and they'll be talking to me and you like this and they go like that. And then they look over at me and I'm like, is someone here? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, hell yeah.
So when the veil, I just got chills so bad. Look at it. So when the veil thins, their loved ones that may have passed or their spirit guides or whatnot tend to show up.
Every time. Every time. I've not had a single patient.
What's your spiritual belief? Do you believe in Jesus? You believe, like, what do you think happens when we leave?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So I grew up Southern Baptist. Okay. So my relationship with religion and even spirituality has always been a little complicated, let's say. And
Me too.
So there's some trauma around.
Oh yeah.
I have a lot of religious trauma too. So it's a loaded question to ask, but I'm highly spiritual. And I always feel like, looking back, I would play in graveyards with my girlfriends at night.
I did too.
I was like a lot witchier than I think I thought I was.
My dad used to take me bike riding in the graveyard, and I loved it. Like, that was my favorite place to be, was going bike riding in the graveyard with my father. I will never forget those times.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
And that's like not a normal place for people to like
kids.
hang out. No.
I was 9 or 8.
Yeah,
loving it. Yeah.
Same, right? I was like 10 and we'd sneak out of our house, my girlfriends and we'd go to the graveyard and like we'd find children's graves and just sit and sing. And like, looking back, that seems kind of weird. My kids didn't do that.
Yeah.
so as I replay, I think that those things I kept kind of quiet because I knew that was kind of like weird and made people feel like uncomfortable or maybe that it was dark, and I didn't want any of my either intuitive messages or whatever to be looked at as like witchcraft.
Yeah.
You know,
I used to dabble in that stuff and wasn't good.
Yeah. And so I feel like I have avoided talking about a lot of my spiritual side in fear of looking like I either knew more, that it was an arrogance, that I like was overlooking the church and that, you know, I knew more, or that I was doing like things in darkness. And I believe that this whole experience brought me even closer to God, creator, spirit, source, life force, energy, what, you know, you fill in the blank. I would get really triggered when people would talk about Jesus. I'd get really triggered when people talk about God.
Yeah.
And now I'm able to recognize that those are just words, right? Like they're the human side of how we're operating. And if, you know, and everyone attaches themselves to either different deities or prophets or guides, and you can fill in the blank, whatever that looks like. And I honor it all. I don't get triggered. I don't get emotional. If anything, I think it's so beautiful when people who do have connections to whatever religion it is, because that's like that there is truth.
I always
in
say
the
that.
middle of it all, right?
I say that. I say there's truth to every religion and there's also lies.
Yes.
I always say that.
But
so,
like
yeah.
there's this knowing, I think, that we all somewhat have, and that the human part and the words, how we articulate that, I think it's a little messy. You know, we've created a lot of different disciplines and, you know, religions spun off of the truth, right? Whatever that
but
nugget
none of us really
is.
freaking know the truth. None of us do. And we
Right?
all walk around and, I know the truth.
Yeah.
And your truth is wrong.
Right. And all I could be like is there is
It's
no
like-
right or wrong. Whatever makes you feel good, man, is like,
Well,
is
none of us are going to know
solid.
until we're dead. You know what I'm saying?
It's solid. And then do we know when we're dead? Like, does death, like, all of a sudden you're like, oh, now I get it?
Now I know, yeah.
Because I've had ancestors come through to me to be like, you know, it's all truth.
Yeah.
Right? It's how we perceive it, and the misunderstandings, I think, that the humans
I know.
interject in it, right? That makes it messy.
What's the most common regret?
Oh.
Because this is another thing of mine. I can't make a damn decision because I'm so afraid I'm choosing the wrong decision. This has been a loop of mine forever. And like, tell me, what is their greatest regret?
I wish that was consistent.
It's not.
The dreams, seeing people come in the rooms, visitors, all that's super consistent. The regrets are very human, right? Like, so they're pretty personal to each person. But I've had, you know, when I notice that people are I don't want to say lingering, but that the dying phase might be taking a little bit longer than what I might have expected, or maybe what hospice is expecting, I do start asking questions, you know, and I don't mean to pry, but my goal is to provide a peaceful transition for these people. And because I've noticed that their loved ones don't really want to talk about death and dying with them, and I think that some of the regrets are pretty personal, that they don't wish to share that with their loved ones. It's a really sacred space to hold, to listen to people question and possibly regret having some of their children.
Oh, wow.
Regretting careers that they chose, regretting people they've married, regretting like
staying in relation. See, I thought the number one regret that would be like a theme was I didn't spend enough time with my out of the rat race type of thing, right? Like, or I didn't spend enough time with my kids, or I didn't, but it's totally not that at all.
I've not heard that.
Oh my gosh.
If anything, there's I wouldn't say regret, but discernment with relatives or relationships that they have often with their children or sisters or brothers or spouse that's unsettled. Okay. And that can really bring up some stuff. So knowing that if you have an estranged sibling or parent, those get brought up.
Okay.
And I don't know if those would be regrets, more as just discomfort and an awareness of maybe some unfinished business.
I was going to say, like, unfinished business or like, So
and death brings up some weird things for people. And so a lot of times entering into the dying phase pulls families away. Like, they don't want to. I remember when my grandmother, I was pretty close with her, and when she was dying, I couldn't even talk on the phone with her.
Barely go.
Because
it hurt you too bad.
It hurt way too bad. And I just couldn't face like seeing her in like not her best shape. And so I do look back as like that was weakness. And I didn't have the courage to look at her in the eye and say goodbye to her. And is it a regret? No, it was part of my growing process because it allowed me to be present with my dad. And it's allowed me now to enter into this space, you know, in a different way and provide for others that I might not have had I attended that particular death.
Would you say you're like very intentional about being present all the time now because of this? Did it throw you into like presence? Because it's very difficult for us humans to be present, right?
Yes.
But since you've been doing this, it's kind of like, are you kind of...
Like, it threw me out of my career. It made me take a hard look at how I was spending my time.
Your energy,
my energy. Because I'm like, oh, that's a bank.
It is a bank.
And I'm like, I'm not about to just give my energy to anybody and to things that like I wasn't in spaces that weren't allowing me to either be my authentic self or that were taking too much from it. It was too depleting. Yeah. And I'm like, oh man, I only got this much energy left, these many years left. How can I can't just like keep working in these spaces or surrounding myself with people that like in authentic ways. It was like, let's go. Life is short. And we're not guaranteed tomorrow. So what are you doing? My friend and I say all the time, this is not your practice life, right? So like, what are you doing with your one precious life? And I think about that a lot more certainly than I ever did before. And I'm a little bit braver to say no to things.
Love that.
And to step out of situations that no longer serve me. You know,
I'm just now learning this, to think of my energy and my time at like, what is it costing me to be around this person?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Or what's it costing me to do this job that I hate or whatever? Like I'm just now starting to think like that. So it's amazing that you brought that up, because that's a mirror moment for me, because I'm about the mirror and like how everything's a mirror. And
it's been the art of listening. And through this death doula workshop that I took, or end of life doula workshop that I just attended, it's all about listening. And it's not just listening to like words, right? It's like listening to self, listening to our thoughts, listening to our biases, listening to our fears. And it's taught me to listen. Death has taught me to listen, which has in turn taught me presence and, you know, embodied presence, right?
Yeah, man. This episode is sponsored by Torchbearer Tachyon, a divine portal for peace based in Charlotte, North Carolina. They offer 1-hour nervous system resets, available both in person and remotely, designed to bring you into alignment physically, mentally, emotionally, and energetically. If you're feeling called to reset and recalibrate, you can experience it for yourself at a discounted rate. Listeners of The Unveiled receive 20% off your first session, bringing it from $111 down to $88.80 when you use code UNVEILED20. Book your session at torchbearertachyon.com today. Have you witnessed experiences that changed how you think about consciousness or what happens after death? I mean, I'm sure you have. Like, what do you think about consciousness as a whole now? Ooh. What did you think before this versus now?
Right? Now this is a great question.
And I'm not laughing or trying to make this like
please laugh.
Humorous.
Please, no, I want you to, because I think it's all very.
I feel you bad have to be because it's coming out like this, because it's like we're talking about dying. I'm over here like
anybody that works in the death and dying field, I feel like would appreciate, because it's all a pretty. There's a lot of dark humor in it too, and it is, because I think that there's reality to it. And so it's nice to be able to laugh about it. And
spontaneously coming through like this, because I'm like, what the hell?
Don't
Why
apologize. Be you. Be your authentic self. Because there is like that. There should be lightness around it. Because this earthly existence in this skin suit is a little limiting, right? And so I didn't realize how much I enjoyed studying realms of consciousness. But since I've been young, I've always questioned it. I've always been curious, and now knowing what books to look into and not being afraid of death has allowed me to explore consciousness even deeper, right? Because it allowed me to let go of any attachments that I have to it. So is consciousness, I just asked my son this the other day because I heard it on a podcast, that is consciousness here, or is it that universal field that we're all pretty aware exists? So is consciousness out and that we are a part of consciousness, or is consciousness within? And that it brings up really profound questions, because based on how you see consciousness allows you to release some of that fear from death. And
okay, well, help me to release this fear. How would you? So I see. Ask me a question. Yeah.
So I'll give you this. When I attended this Anelda end of life doula workshop in Boone a few months ago, we had to do prompts with a partner, and we were all given 3 months left to live. And I usually don't get boo-hooey about that kind of stuff, but I kind of started to panic. They were like, you won't see your next birthday, you won't see Christmas, you won't see your kids' birthdays. They made it real. And then you were supposed to partner up, and you got to figure out who's your care team, right? Who's going to take care of your family or you? Do you have a death doula? Do you know somebody? What's your advanced directives like? What kind of space do you want to be in? Because if now you know, somewhat of a gift. So how do you set up your family and set up yourself for that transition? But it brought up some pretty gnarly things. And the one thing that made me the sucker punched me the most was the realization that I've not prepared my children to be able to communicate with me when I'm not here.
Oh,
right?
Stop it right now.
Because I'm I've got to spend the next 3 months on teaching them about consciousness and teaching them about signs and intuitive downloads and understanding the field, this field of energy that we all exist in. I'm like, oh shit, I got some work to do.
Do you know how much help that would be though for someone like myself? Because of the fact that when my mom did pass, if me and her talked about that and I saw the sign, then I could be like, oh yeah, she's here. You know what I'm saying? You would just be totally it would let the grief settle a lot sooner, I would think. So that's brilliant.
Well, it's the illusion of control, right? We want control, as much control as we can. And so if I can control how my kids communicate with me, or maybe that they feel that they have a sense of control of this out of control situation of losing mom, it's no. I'm just, my mom said it, they're just in the next room.
Wow.
Right? And so how to teach my children to be comfortable with what that looks and feels like to have a loved one just in the next room.
And this right here, I just had this come to me. This episode we're doing, our kids are going to be able to watch this when we're gone.
Yeah.
And that's been one of the driving forces for me to keep doing this, is so my kid would have a piece of me when I'm gone, and he can go and watch me, and be like, oh my God, my mom's so silly.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you're already doing your own little legacy project.
I didn't even know I was doing it.
That's called a legacy project. People do it. They hired, end-of-life doulas to help them with these kinds of things.
Wow.
They'll record the patient making, statements to loved ones and collect it all for them so that when they pass, that they...
a death diary.
Exactly.
What have dying people taught you that healthy people often forget?
Oh, again, everything. I would say
Hard to answer.
I've learned more about the importance of so that this is different because when I speak, and I want to be real clear and really respectful about this part, because the patients that I have sat with, and even my father, they were older. And I think that there's a misconception that hospice equals old people.
Oh, there is. I thought that.
And so I think it's important to realize that not everybody is at the end of like their bodies haven't reached that like expiration date to where like things are starting to not work as well. You know, their hands don't work, they can't open things, they can't move. I think it's easy for us to assume that they're just old and that's part of it. And so I've learned from my older patients about things to take care of my body that I don't necessarily think I would have now, that I think young people do, you know, take for granted. Just our natural grip strength and playing and moving our bodies, like dancing and keeping it flexible. And I think those are all really important things. But that's speaking to those that are transitioning at an older age. So it is important to remember that while it is not as likely, it is very real for young people to be put on hospice, and it is very real to see children and teenagers and young parents. And, you know, the lessons that you're learning from that they look a little different, you know, than watching somebody's body age like that.
Have you had to work with kids?
I have not. And only recently I was listening to one of my favorite authors, Stephen Jenkinson, who suggested that all teenagers before they go off to college should work in hospice.
Really?
And I was like, whew, that's pretty heavy. And so I mentioned it to my son, who's leaving to college next month. And I said, I really think you should look into this. And he's like, you know what? That would make me feel alive. Let's do it. So he went to a hospice volunteer training with me and has gone, and he was introduced because when we had to check off the boxes of what we were going to put ourselves in for, whether it was in-home care or in the facility care, so just going weekly, or helping mail cards, right? Like there's all sorts of ways you can volunteer in hospice. He selected doing the children's thing. And he's like, Mom, you'd be great at that. You've worked with kids your whole life. And I was like, again, when the hospice nurse was like, you'd be really good at hospice, that same moment of like, hell no.
Right.
No. And I looked at him and I was like, Luke, that's next level, bud. I don't know if I could. And he's like, Mom, there's no one better. Like you'd be.
I just got chills. He's
right?
Right.
Like, and so he has made me a little bit more open to that, and holding space for those people that aren't old. And I wouldn't have never even ventured into that thought process.
So is he going to do it?
So he has volunteered for this hospice organization at a farm for a lot of kids that were facing bereaved, they were bereaved children. So they had either lost a sibling or a parent or someone very close. And they were all, 15 and under, I think. And we had a patient that just wanted cards written to him. And so it was really interesting to see, like, what is an 18-year-old going to write to a man who he knows he'll never receive a card back from?
Wow.
Like, what do you write? And I think just the fact that it allowed him to step outside of himself for a second.
Yeah. And
to think, what do you write to somebody that's dying that you've never met and that you'll never hear a word back from? And so with that being said, I do think that that it is a pretty solid suggestion to have teenagers work in hospice and to be aware of that kind of work, because I do think they're very much in their own head and in their own world, especially with social media and computers and gaming and everything. It's service work that, like Luke says, it makes you feel alive, reminds you that you are alive. There's nothing.
Does it make
like
you more
that.
grateful? You like automatically?
100%.
Yeah.
And I've always operated with like a pretty like optimistic mindset and very like everything is in abundance. Everything, the universe is always in my favor. I've always really tried to operate in that mindset anyways. But this is like, it requires you. It forces you to.
I would love to be able to come with you one time and like just shadow you and see what you do. Like, do they allow that or no?
So I would invite you to just like, if it's interesting to you, there's a lot of great nonprofit, like, and I would suggest nonprofit, looking, volunteering nonprofit. Hospice is definitely a different world, and they give you a lot of tools, and there is support out there for that. And you know, the first couple times, the first few patients you have, it is awkward. You don't really know, and every patient's different. Everyone's at their different phase of their life. Some people are of right of mind, and others are not. So it is different every single visit, even with the same patient.
What's one transition you will never forget, and why?
Like one death?
Besides your family, like someone that you've worked with. Yeah, like if that makes sense, that question.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about like attending. So here's another misconception too, is that doing hospice work, I think a lot of people assume that you are bedside when that person passes.
I did think that, yeah.
I think everybody pretty much does. And the likelihood of someone even being in the room when someone passes is really 50-50.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, if someone was a little bit more introverted, you will find that they will pass when their loved one goes to the bathroom.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That is
they'll
so
wait,
cool.
you know, like they don't want a scene. They don't want an audience.
Wow.
They wanted more privacy. And it's oftentimes how they live their life can sometimes dictate that. But again, that's in these hospice situations, not in, there's a lot of, sporadic deaths that happen that don't have the preparation for it, that, you know, are a little bit more unpredictable. But
Are you comfortable with sharing if you've been there when someone passed beside your?
So the only, the first, we'll call it a patient, but the first transition that I experienced like face to face right after this Anelda course was my donkey.
Oh.
And so he died from colic. It was a pretty violent death, and he had to be euthanized. Luckily, we had a vet there, but it was just weeks after this course had finished. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't have expected it being an animal, but having the capacity to keep myself, to listen, right? Listen to myself, listen to what the animal needed, and to be present. It was, again, pretty unexpected to have it be one of my own and an animal, but that was also a pretty tragic and immediate thing. He wasn't sick for a long time, you know? So
That's the worst. Yeah. Because I even thought about that. I was like, okay, you're so scared to die of a dis-ease, right? But wouldn't you rather die from that so you have time to, like, tell people you love them, tell people, hey, I wish I would have spent more time with you, like, all that, right? Like, and that made it easier for me that if that's how I go, I can accept that.
Right.
Right? Because if you die in a car accident, what if you just had a fight with your kid?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would be, for me, that would be worse than me having to go through a sickness and going out.
Right.
Because I'm very extroverted. I'd want to tell everybody how I felt, you know, before I left. So it made it easier for me to be less hypochondriac-y. And
yeah, I think it's the illusion of a good or a bad death.
Yeah.
And what is better or worse, because death is just death. It really is a transition and a very 100% guaranteed transition that we will all face. Not every woman's going to have a baby. Not every human will experience bringing life into the world, but we will all experience this transition. It's inevitable. Period.
I always say, ain't nobody getting out of here alive.
No. So you don't really want to set yourself up to be disappointed or to look at it as like, oh, he died so suddenly. It was so sad. Is it easier? Because I've seen people on hospice for years, and the struggle in watching families transition through that loss is sometimes just as traumatic as an immediate loss. Yeah. I think it is all how the mind is able to conceptualize the transition and the belief system that we build inside us to know that this is not the end.
I love that. I love that. For someone who thinks that this is the end, what would you say to them? Like, I know a guy that like literally said, like, he almost died and he said all he saw was black. There's nothing after this, right? And for me, I couldn't conceive that at all.
I think it goes into like consciousness, right? It's that question of like, what is consciousness, and what is heaven? What is hell? Are those places, or are they? Or can we live in hell in a daily life?
Absolutely.
You know. Mm-hmm. So I do believe approaching every day, every situation as a gift, and knowing that, a car accident, a traumatic loss, there is no script here.
Yeah.
And so
it's all part of the plan.
Yeah. And even though we can sit and prepare for our own deaths and say, we want it to look like this, I would really love to know ahead of time. Do you? Like, right. I don't know.
I wouldn't want to know when I was going, because then I'd be freaking out every day. I'd be like, oh my God, 5 hours and 7 seconds. And you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't want to know that. I'm glad that that's the one thing that is kept from us.
But is it? Because if you're on hospice.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh,
like one of my last patients, every week, it was a new decline. And she'd be like, Jessica, my legs don't work now. I'm like, oh, tell me about that. She's like, it's so weird. Like one day they just stopped working. She's like, I just don't understand why I'm not dying. And
wow.
Yes. And the waiting. And like all I would do is think about like how to ease that anxiety that she had, because she knew it was coming, but like, and was excited for it, was ready and eager for it. And like how to settle her mind, calm her nervous system, bring her any kind of like peace, whether it was through hypnosis or visualizations or guided imagery or music or sound or touch or, Reiki, anything to settle the mind and to just bring you to a space of I guess equilibrium, right? Mm-hmm. That's all you
My
can do.
sister got sick, and she said like she'd never felt more peace whenever she was going through the treatments and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, how? Like, I would have been like, does some people's minds just kind of go there?
Yeah.
Where they don't even need to.
I think there is a great surrender.
What surprised you most the first time you witnessed someone passing?
Oh, that's a great question. What surprised me most? That it was just like childbirth.
Yeah.
And that last breath is just like a baby's first.
Because you're being kind of born into another thing.
Yeah.
We think it's just you're just dead, right? But you're being reborn into something else. And
yeah. Watching the breath. The first death I attended was my dog. And that scream that I had, that deep belly just wail. And the more I've dug into death and dying, like in old times, there were women in villages that would wail over the dying to like pull the pain out and to help them with that transition. It was like what they did. And I had no idea like that there's so many indigenous practices that I think if we brought back or brought awareness to would really help our death phobic culture be a little bit more comfortable with this transition and live our lives differently.
I was going to say that.
And eliminate a lot of the dis-ease that we face, especially in American culture.
Where can they find you if someone wants to connect with you?
Well, I would probably suggest I volunteer with local hospice organizations, but people don't really search for volunteers that way. I have a profile on ANELDA now as a member with the International End of Life Doula Association, so you can go find a death doula in your area. And you also don't need to know you're dying to find a death doula.
Right.
Death doulas can be for anybody that is just aware of their own mortality, or maybe people like you that are petrified and like want to find peace with that part of their life and to coordinate with those people to help them and help you understand the processes, become more educated, and also prepare so there's the illusion of control that you can give things to your family and not have it be such a fearful thing, because it will help your family more than you know for you to approach your own death with a peace of mind.
With consciousness.
Yes, yeah. So on ANELDA.
So guys, we're adding a new segment to the show called Mirror Moments. It's sort of like a self-reflection for every guest that comes on. What is one truth that you are embracing right now as you're living life?
Something that I'm working on right now is finding peace within and not allowing exterior circumstances, people, places, sounds, events to disrupt the inner peace. I feel like by watching people's lives end has made me more aware of the conscious peace that we all hold, and to embody that and to practice it inside and to not look outside for that peace.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much.